Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be checking out a brand new move in Pokemon Go, GLACIATE KYUREM. Kyurem is an Ice and Dragon type Pokemon with the moveset of Dragon Breath, Dragon Claw, and now it gets access to Glaciate. Glaciate is a legacy move. It has the same stats as Icicle Spear, but it does lower your opponent's attack, so it's even more powerful than Icicle Spear. I decided to test it out in the Open Ultra League to see just how improved Kyurem is. So without further ado, let's up into the matches and check out GLACIATE KYUREM in action in the Ultra League. Hopping to the first match, picking up the Dream Lead Virizion into Shadow Swampert. My opponent is going to save switch into Drapion, and typically I would bring in Walrein, but for some reason I was feeling like they might be trying to bait out my Walrein, so I go for the Sacred Sword and I'm going to bring in Kyurem. Now Kyurem in the Ultra League does have some average bulk, I would say. As you're going to see, one crunch does not do half of its health. They are able to reach a second crunch. I'm going to commit the shield here, overfarm, and then fire off the Glaciate. As I mentioned, Glaciate does do some pretty solid damage, but the really nice aspect of it is going to be the attack drop for the opponent. I fire off the Glaciate. They do get the debuff, which is guaranteed, and now their next crunch is not going to be able to KO. I'm going to be able to tank the crunch and reach a Dragon Claw, meaning that I can either guarantee switch advantage or shield advantage. Dragon Claw is going to be no shielded, as my opponent is going to Mudshot down with Shadow Swampert. I'm going to bring in Virizion, and they have Mandibuzz in the back. Opponent sees a writing on the wall and concedes the match. Moving into the next match, picking up a very tough lead Virizion into a Alolan Muck. I will immediately save switch into Walrein, and my opponent is actually staying in this matchup. This means they don't have a great response to a Walrein in the back. They're going to fire off Dark Pulse. Dark Pulse will do quite a bit of damage. I continue to farm, and then my opponent is going to send in Tapu Fini. Considering I have a Dragon type in the back, I'm pretty happy to see Tapu Fini here, and I have a massive energy lead, so let's put it to work. I continue to farm. They fire off a charge move. I believe they are short of a Moonblast here, and a Surf is not going to KO, so Walrein is able to reach a second Earthquake. This is going to be close. Earthquake gets them low. Walrein gets the farm down, and I take switch. That's massive, because that means the Alolan Muck is going to be aligned against my Kyurem in the back, which is a fairly neutral matchup. And now I can send in Kyurem. These Dragon Breaths will add up quite a bit in this matchup. Alolan Muck is at a charge move. I decide to respect it, and I get baited with an Acid Spray. Very unfortunate. I'm going to return fire with the Glaciate. Glaciate, of course, will do some solid chip damage and lower their attack. Glaciate lands. They can't reach another move, and in the back, they have Giratina, and I am incredibly happy to have Glaciate here. I'm going to need Virizion's help to try and take down a Giratina, so I absolutely need to lower their attack first. Virizion, of course, can only throw resisted charge moves, but now that I've lowered their attack, this is going to be a lot easier to get rid of the Giratina. I continue to farm up, and I'm just going to start spamming out these resisted Leaf Blades. Now, Giratina is pretty tanky, but the damage will start to add up over time. They're going to fire off another Dragon Claw. Of course, I'm not going to be shielding the thing. I'm going to be saving my shield for Kyurem in case I need a little bit of Dragon Breath damage to help finish off this game. They fire off a move. This is not going to KO. Again, debuff Dragon Claws are not too threatening to Virizion. I'm going to fire off the Leaf Blade. Leaf Blade will get them into the red. My opponent is going to commit the shield. I continue to farm. They're farming up as well. They want energy in case I bring in Kyurem, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. Leaf Blade lands. In comes Kyurem, and I am going to shield this. Even though they should be able to reach a second Dragon Claw, I get my Dragon Breath through, so now, hopefully, they should be in farm down range. Dragon Claw is going to KO. In comes Virizion. Virizion double kicks down, and that is a good game. Tough times ahead in the next match as we lead Virizion into Galvantula. Galvantula is a pretty big core breaker for this team, as it does very well against both Virizion and my Walrein. They're going to fire off a charge move as soon as they get it. I'm going to let this go. My opponent is running Cross Poison, so a very unusual moveset. I'm going to overfarm, bluffing like I do have a potential Stone Edge, and I'm able to grab a shield. Since they did show me Cross Poison, odds are they're probably running Cross Poison and Lunge, so they're not running Discharge. And if that's the case, then Walrein is actually not terrible here, because they're only able to hit for neutral with their charge moves instead of super effective. I'm able to land the Icicle Spear, they continue to farm, and honestly, I'm hoping they go for the Cross Poison here, because if they do, I should barely be able to live it and make the Icicle Spear, but my opponent reads me like a book, and they make a beautiful catch, catching the Icicle Spear onto their Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales. So my opponent led a Core Breaker for my team, and in the back they have a second Core Breaker, as Powder Snow Alolan Ninetales does very well against both Virizion and Kyurem. I throw on bad timing there. At this point, I just need the damage as soon as possible. I'm able to land the Leaf Blade, which is big. They're going to fire off a charge move. I'm going to commit the shield because I want to try and grab their final shield if at all possible. So I'm going for the Leaf Blade. Decision time for my opponent. Are they willing to commit the final shield? Yes, they are. Aggressive switch into Kyurem, and I get the farm down. That's big. They lose some energy, and now we'll have to see what they have in the back. But first, they're going to debuff me with Galvantula. I'm going to hold on to my shield. I still don't know what they have in the back. Lunge lands, and they have Jellicent in the back. So not really a matchup where I can fire off Glaciate, but the Dragon Breath Dragon Claw combination should prove quite deadly here. There was a little bit of lag, and my opponent is going to fire off a move. I will commit the shield, and they full sent the Shadow Ball. That's a big shield. I should be able to land 2 debuff Dragon Claws, and then if I can bank a move, reset my debuff, then a non-debuff Dragon Claw number 3 should be enough to KO. So I farm up, send in Virizion, they get nervous about a Leaf Blade, and they're going to fire off a move. My opponent goes for the Bubble Beam, and now I just have to wait for the Hex to start, and then fire off the Dragon Claw. Dragon Claw will KO. I should be able to farm down Galvantula and secure the win. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Virizion into Walrein. Definitely happy to catch the Walrein on the lead. My opponent is going to save switch into a Tapu Fini, and they are absolutely core broken by Virizion. Virizion will be able to reach 2 Leaf Blades before they reach their first move, meaning that if they want to land a Moonblast, they're going to have to give me an early shield. Virizion firing off Leaf Blade number 2, and we do see an early shield from the Tapu Fini. Fini will return fire. I'm going to respect the potential Moonblast, as that would do massive damage, but I get baited with a Surf. No problem, I'm going to overfarm slightly, go for another Leaf Blade, and continue to apply pressure onto my opponent. Leaf Blade does get the shield. My opponent is really trying to get rid of the Virizion, and I am not going to let that happen. I will commit the shield. I get baited again. I don't want to overfarm too much in case they potentially go for a catch. I'm just going to go for the Leaf Blade and make sure to get rid of the Fini. In comes Charizard, I pivot into Walrein, and I fall for the oldest trick in the book. My opponent switching as soon as I get my Icicle Spear and making a beautiful catch onto their own Walrein. Definitely not a great spot for me now, as their Charizard in the Zero Shield with an energy lead is pretty scary. I fire off the Earthquake, I do win the CMP tie over my opponent, and that is pretty useful, because they're not going to be able to land a second Earthquake due to me being able to win CMP. So I'm just going to continue to farm up here. I will be able to make it to the Quake. This is going to KO, and now I just have to try and get rid of this Charizard, if at all possible. Back in comes the Zard. Zard will fire off a charge move, and I just have to let this through since I have no shields remaining. They full send the Blast Burn, and now I'm going to send in Kyurem. Kyurem should be able to tank any one move here, and I just have to get to a charge move. However, in this moment, I make a pretty foolish decision, and that's that I want to end the game with a Glaciate. As you see, I had the Dragon Claw, could have thrown it, but I decide against it, and I catch onto my Virizion. Virizion will be able to fire off the Sacred Sword. The question is, will they leave with a claw loaded? Yes, they will. I tried to go for the Glaciate since that's what I'm featuring, and unfortunately, it cost me the game. Moving into the next match, and we pick up an incredibly favorable lead, Virizion into Registeel. This is exactly where I want to see Reggie on this team, and my opponent is staying in to start. Since they're staying in, I'm going to fire off the Sacred Sword since I do easily outpace them, and land some nice super effective damage, chipping the Registeel. Registeel is going to return fire, go in for the Focus Blast. Focus Blast will hit for some neutral damage in return, and then my opponent is going to send in Sylveon. I'll fire off the Leaf Blade to get some chip damage, and then send in my Walrein. This should be fairly close to Earthquake range, so as I farm up, I decide to full send the Earthquake. I'm hoping that this is going to be enough damage to get rid of the Sylveon, but Sylveon is barely able to hang on and reach a charge move. I'm going to let this through. Sylveon only able to reach the Psyshock, and I get the farm down. And as you're going to see, opponent does not get the chance to see Kyurem as they resign the match. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Virizion into another Tapu Fini. My opponent will immediately save switch into their Walrein, and I'm able to outpace them and fire off the Leaf Blade. This will get some very nice chip damage, and now I can safely bring in my own Walrein. they will be able to reach an Earthquake, but that is perfectly fine by me, as I'll comfortably tank an Earthquake and be able to overfarm quite a bit, and I should be able to win CMP on their next Earthquake. So I'm going to farm up here and win CMP. This is perfect. Now I leave with a lot of loaded energy, so my opponent is actually going to commit the shield. My opponent not wanting to go down without a fight, and neither am I. I will commit the shield on the Earthquake. The thing I do have to watch for is a potential catch. So I continue to overfarm. They go for the catch onto Charizard, so I'm very happy that I waited. I'm going to be able to fire off this Icicle Spear, get some chip damage, and in comes Kyurem. Kyurem is going to be met with the loaded energy from the Charizard. Charizard goes for the Dragon Claw. That's going to land. I'll fire off my Dragon Claw right before they're able to reach a move. Decision time for my opponent. They're going to commit the shield. They continue to farm. And honestly, I've gotten them low enough where I'm perfectly fine with just letting the Kyurem go. Kyurem has done its job, and Virizion should be able to win this game for me. I don't want to take the wing attack, however, so I will farm down with the Wall Rain. Opponent is going to send in Tapu into my loaded Earthquake. Earthquake is going to connect, and now I send in Virizion. Wall Rain does have a lot of energy, but now my plan is to shield one, tank one, and farm all the way down. Icicle Spear is able to land. They do reach Icicle Spear number 2. I will commit the shield, and now I just have to double kick down to win. Virizion gets the farm down, and that is a good game. Hopping into the final match, and boy, I make a lot of mistakes in this one. We pick up an incredibly good lead. Virizion into Swampert. My opponent is going to save switch into Wing Attack Charizard, and I respond with Wall Rain. So far, so good. I'm able to land the Icicle Spear and put it in a range where a second charge move is going to KO. My opponent plays to CMP. I live a Blast Burn from here, so I let it go, and they go for the Dragon Claw bait. That is absolutely incredible. I'm going to fire off the Icicle Spear and grab the shield, so my opponent is looking to try and make a play for switch advantage. This time they don't play to CMP. A Blast Burn would KO here, so I commit the shield, and it is the Blast Burn. That's a big shield. I'm going to fire off another Icicle Spear. Icicle Spear is going to get the shield, and at this moment, I make the first of my mistakes in this match. I elect to take my shield advantage. If they're switching a Fire Flying type into my Virizion, odds are they probably have a second equally strong counter in the back, but unfortunately, I just didn't realize that at the time. Second mistake, I didn't fire off my Glaciate right away onto the Swampert, so now I have to respect a potential move, and in hindsight, I think they were actually even short of being at an Earthquake. I fire off the Glaciate, I'm going to go for the Earthquake catch, they hold on to their energy, and it's a Pidgeot in the back, and at this point, this is basically game over. Had I kept switch advantage, this would have been a pretty straightforward game, but I did not, and now I am in a tremendous amount of trouble. They go for the Feather Dance. That's going to get me low. I should barely be able to hang on and reach the Sacred Sword. The Sacred Sword is double debuffed though, so it's not going to do a lot of damage. I'm going to bring back in Kyurem. Kyurem will fire off the Glaciate. This will get the KO, but unfortunately now I've taken enough damage where I should be pretty close to Earthquake range. Back in comes Swampert. Swampert goes for the Earthquake. Earthquake KOs, and that is a good game. All in all, Glaciate is a definite improvement on Kyurem, giving it a secondary charge move that's an Icicle Spear clone with an attack debuff is really nice, as previously it was stuck with the expensive Blizzard or Draco Meteor as its only options. Kyurem should be a pretty strong off-meta pick in the Master League, and looks to be incredibly powerful in the upcoming Ultra League Holiday Cup. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.